Have you ever loved someone so much that you were willing to become invisible for them? To put their dreams before your own, to fund their entire ambition in secret, just hoping they'd see you? Because I did. I loved her, and she broke me. Not with a whisper, but with a public, calculated betrayal that would make your blood run cold. It started subtly, a chill wind through our relationship. My fiancée, Camille, looked at me one night, her politician smile not quite reaching her eyes, and said, "Don't call me your future wife in front of these people. Not yet." My jaw tightened, but I just nodded. I didn't argue. That night, while she slept soundly beside me, something inside me clicked. I quietly, methodically went through every guest list, every donor sheet, every single piece of paper linking me to her meticulously built campaign, and I erased myself from it. 2 days later, I walked into what was supposed to be our engagement celebration at the opulent Watergate Hotel. Camille was at the podium, beaming, addressing 300 people, the who's who of DC. "I also want to acknowledge someone special," she announced, her voice dripping with artificial warmth. "My good friend Wells." Friend? She'd introduced me as her good friend 4 times in the past hour. Then she pointed at me like I was a novelty act. "Go on, Wells, open it. I promise it's not a breakup letter." The room tittered with polite laughter. My throat felt like it was closing. I picked up the black leather envelope, gold lettering pressed into the front. My hands, surprisingly, were steady. Inside, a single, heavy card read, "Thank you for your generous support of Camille Royce's mayoral campaign. Your contribution of $850,000 has been noted. We look forward to your continued patronage." And scrolled below it, in Camille's familiar handwriting, "You have been such a good little donor. Don't worry. I will find someone worthy of standing beside me." The ballroom fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Camille was still smiling, waiting for me to shatter, to break down, to give her a scene she could spend later. Poor Wells, he got emotional. But instead, a calm, cold certainty settled over me. I smiled back. "You are right, Camille," I said, my voice cutting through the stunned silence. "You do need someone worthy." And then I turned and walked out. Behind me, confused murmuring erupted. Camille's voice, that sweet, concerned public voice she used for cameras, called my name. I just kept walking. In the parking garage, I slid into my old, beat-up Subaru Outback. No flashy car, just like no flashy clothes. It was all part of the act, the persona I'd built to live by my grandfather's rules. Keep your private life private. Never let people treat you differently because of your name. For 29 years, I'd lived by those rules, meticulously hiding the Aldrich wealth, the Aldrich power. Now they were going to burn. I made 3 calls. First, to Dominic, my family's attorney for 23 years, a former federal prosecutor, now a partner at Crane and Holloway. "Dominic," I said, my voice steady, "it's Wells Aldridge. Execute the extraction protocol for Camille Royce. Everything, immediately." He didn't miss a beat. "Understood. The super PAC funding. Terminate it tonight before midnight. The campaign headquarters lease. Her name's on it, but my trust owns the building. Initiate eviction proceedings. Give her the legal minimum notice. The staff salaries, paid through the Royce Campaign Fund, which is entirely Aldrich Foundation money. Cut off all transfers. And the media consultant contracts, void them. Breach a moral character clause. I'll send you the documentation." I hung up. The second call was to my cousin, Dr. Margot Aldridge, Chief of Staff at Georgetown University Hospital. She'd been begging me for 2 years to join the board. "Margot," I said, "I'm ready to accept that board position, but there's something you need to know about one of your donors first." The third call was to my grandfather, Sterling Aldrich, former Secretary of Commerce, current CEO of Aldrich Holdings, the kind of man who had presidents on speed dial. "Wells," he said, his voice warm, "how's the engagement party?" "It's over." Silence. Then what happened? She called me her good friend in front of 300 people, then made a joke about how much money I've given her campaign. A low chuckle came through the phone. "That girl has no idea who you are, does she?" "No, sir." "Good. Keep it that way until tomorrow. Then burn her entire house down, legally." "Already started." He laughed then, a sharp, satisfied sound. "That's my grandson. Call me when it's done." I drove home in the rain, watching the Washington Monument disappear behind the fog, and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a profound, chilling clarity. The problem, if I'm being honest, started 8 months ago. though I didn't recognize it then. I met Camille at a Georgetown fundraiser. She was running for city council. Young, ambitious, photogenic, the kind of candidate who looked perfect on posters. I was there representing my family's foundation. Quiet money, no recognition expected. Camille approached me first. "You look bored," she said, champagne in hand. "Networking events are my thing." "What is your thing?" "Urban development policy, specifically affordable housing initiatives." She blinked. "Seriously, I wrote my thesis on it. Johns Hopkins Public Policy Program." Her smile shifted then, became genuine. "That's actually what my campaign is focused on. Have you read the Whitford Report on housing displacement?" We talked for 2 hours. She was smart, informed, passionate about all the right things. When she asked for my number, I gave it to her. Our first date was at a Thai restaurant. She insisted on splitting the check. "Don't believe in traditional gender roles," she said. I respected that. Our second date, a walk through the National Arboretum. She talked about her vision for DC for affordable housing, education reform, police accountability, real, detailed plans. I fell for her vision before I fell for her. By month 3, we were serious. She met my parents, believing them to be retired teachers, which technically was true. They had both taught economics before my grandfather recruited them into the family business. She never asked what that business was. I didn't volunteer. Operational security. Grandfather's rules. By month 6, Camille was running for mayor. An aggressive jump. But her polling was strong. Young voters loved her. Progressive donors loved her. Progressive donors loved her. And I loved her. So when she asked for help with her campaign, I said yes. Mayoral races cost millions. I set up a super PAC through my family's foundation. Nothing illegal, completely transparent, legally speaking, but structured so the money came from the Aldrich Foundation without screaming. Wells Aldrich. Camille thought the foundation just liked her policies. She had no idea I was the foundation. I leased her a campaign headquarters prime location, 14th Street corridor, 20,000 square feet. She thought she'd gotten a sweetheart deal from a friendly landlord. She didn't know my trust owned the entire building. I hired her senior staff, connected her with consultants, introduced her to donors who mattered. She thought I was just well connected. She didn't know I was the connection, and I told myself it was fine, that I was supporting her vision, that she had earned the help. But the truth was simpler. I was in love, and I was hiding who I was because I wanted to be loved for me, not for what I had. Classic mistake. The first red flag came in March. We were at her headquarters late one night. She was stressed about polling numbers. "I need a bigger media buy," she said, staring at spreadsheets. "But we're tapped out. The foundation maxed out their contribution limit." "There are other donors," I said carefully. "Who?" "I've called everyone. Nobody wants to commit until they see movement in the polls." "What about personal wealth?" She looked at me. "Wells, I don't have personal wealth. My parents are accountants. I work in nonprofit development. This campaign is bankrupting me." She looked at me again, really looked. "I could help with." "What?" "You're a policy consultant. You make, what, $60,000 a year?" I had never told her I was a policy consultant. She had just assumed it. "Something like that," I said. "Then how would you help? You're barely covering your own rent." I owned my condo outright, but she'd seen my Subaru, my off-the-rack clothes, my refusal to eat at expensive restaurants, and built a whole story. I was the struggling but passionate policy wonk who believed in her vision. It wasn't entirely wrong. I did believe in her vision, but I wasn't struggling. "I'll figure something out," I said. That night, I transferred another $200,000 into the super PAC, routed through 3 intermediary organizations. Completely legal. Completely invisible. Camille's media buy went through. She never asked where the money came from. I told myself her not asking was a kind of trust. That's the lie I needed at the time. The truth was, she didn't ask because she'd already decided the answer didn't matter. Only the result did. I was a faucet. You don't think a faucet? You just turn it when you're thirsty and forget it the rest of the day. The second red flag came in May. We were at a donor dinner, a high-dollar event, $1,000 a plate. I'd bought a table, filled it with family, friends, people who would donate to Camille's campaign as a favor to me. Camille worked the room brilliantly, but when she got to our table, something shifted. She introduced me to a major donor, Walter Brandt, CEO of a regional development firm. "This is Wells," she said, hand on my shoulder. "He's been such a great supporter. helped with policy research. Very detail-oriented. Detail-oriented, like I was her assistant. Brent looked at me. You work for the campaign? I volunteer. Wells is very passionate, Camille said, squeezing my shoulder. He does a lot of the boring work nobody else wants to do. The table laughed politely. I forced a smile. Later that night, in her apartment, I brought it up. Why did you introduce me like that? Like what? Like I'm your intern? She frowned. Wells, you're being sensitive. I was complimenting you. You do help with policy research. You made it sound like that's all I do. Isn't it? I stared at her. Camille, I'm your fiancée. And you're also my policy volunteer. Those aren't mutually exclusive. You didn't introduce me as your fiancé because it was a donor event. I need them to see me as professional, serious, not as someone who brings her partner to work functions. We are engaged, and that's personal. This was business. She kissed me on the cheek and went to bed. I sat on her couch for 2 hours, trying to convince myself she was right, that I was being overly sensitive, that separating personal and professional was smart. But something in my chest had gone cold. The next morning, I drove past the headquarters before sunrise and sat in the parking lot for a while. My building. My lease. My money keeping the lights on inside. I watched her staff arrive, the staff I had hired, badge into a door I owned, to work for a candidate I had built. And not one of them knew my name. I told myself that was the point. Quiet money, no recognition expected. But sitting there in the dark, I understood for the first time that there's a difference between being private and being erased. And Camille had stopped doing the first and started doing the second. The third red flag came in July. Camille's campaign was gaining momentum. She was pulling ahead in polls, getting major endorsements, more public attention, news interviews, podcast appearances, magazine profiles. One profile in DC, Metro magazine, included a photo spread of her authentic life. Her apartment, her office, her jogging route. I wasn't in any of the photos. The article mentioned she was focused on her career and not interested in romantic distractions. When I asked her about it, she shrugged. The photographer wanted to include you. I said no. Why? Because it would raise questions. People would want to know who you are, what you do, how we met, and frankly, Wells, your story isn't interesting enough to help the campaign. My hands went cold. My story. You're a policy consultant. You volunteer for progressive causes. That's great, but it doesn't add anything to my narrative. She paused. And I'm your fiancé, and that's why I'm protecting you from scrutiny. If people started digging into your background, asking questions about your family or your finances or your connections, it could create problems. What kind of problems? The kind where people accuse me of nepotism or favoritism or being funded by secret money. I almost laughed. Camille, you are being funded by secret money. What? The super PAC, the foundation donations, the headquarters lease. Where do you think all of that came from? She stared at me. From people who believe in my vision. People who believe in my vision. People, not person. Wells, what are you saying? I nearly told her everything right there, nearly explained that I was the Aldridge behind the Aldridge Foundation, that my family's money built half of Northwest DC, that I could make or break her campaign with a single phone call. But something stopped me. Pride, stubbornness, the desperate hope that she would see me without needing to know my bank balance. Nothing, I said. Forget it. She studied me for a moment, then smiled. You're stressed. The campaign is stressful. I get it. Why don't you take a few days off from volunteering? Recharge. I'll handle things. Take a few days off from supporting the campaign I had funded, from helping the candidate I had built. Sure, I said. Good idea. I didn't volunteer for the next week. She didn't notice. The fourth red flag, the one that should have been the last, came in August. Camille's campaign manager quit. Personal reasons. Family emergency gone in 48 hours. She was panicking. I need someone immediately. Someone who knows the campaign inside and out. Someone who can keep everything running. I could help, I offered. Wells, no. This is a professional position. I need someone with experience. I have experience in policy research. This is campaign management, strategy, fundraising, media relations. You've never done any of that. She hired someone else, Renata Vidal, a consultant from New York. Expensive, abrasive, someone who immediately started questioning every decision the previous manager had made. including the building lease. This is way too good to be true, Renata told Camille in a meeting I was volunteering at. Who is the landlord? I don't know, Camille said. The lease is through some trust. Aldrich Holdings or something? Renata's eyes narrowed. Aldrich Holdings, the development company. Camille, do you know who they are? They're one of the biggest private real estate firms in the region. They don't give sweetheart deals to political campaigns. Well, they did. Why? Maybe they like my housing policy. Renata looked skeptical but dropped it. I sat in the corner, invisible, and watched them discuss my family's company like it was a mystery. That night, Renata pulled me aside. She had the look of someone doing math in her head. You've been around since the beginning, she said. The cheap building, the consultants who showed up out of nowhere, the donors who arrive in clusters. Somebody is carrying this campaign and hiding it. She looked at me shrewdly. Do you know who? I shrugged. I just do policy research, I said. She held my gaze a second too long, then nodded slowly, like she had decided I was either useless or lying, and couldn't yet tell which. She was the only person in 8 months who came close. Camille never did. The engagement party was Camille's idea. We need to formalize our relationship publicly, she said in September. Show donors that I'm stable, committed, ready for leadership. I thought you wanted to keep our relationship private. That was before. Now I'm the front runner. People want to see the whole package. Me and my life partner, someone who supports my vision, your fiancé, but we need to be smart about how we present it. We spent 2 weeks planning. Camille invited 300 people, donors, politicians, journalists, community leaders. I invited no one. Don't you want your family there? She asked. They're low-key people. This isn't their scene. What about friends? I'll celebrate with them separately. The truth was simpler. I didn't want my grandfather showing up and accidentally revealing who I was. Didn't want my cousin mentioning the hospital board. Didn't want anyone connecting the dots. I was still hoping Camille would see me first. The week before the party, we were arguing about the seating chart, about which donors went where, about whether my name belonged anywhere near the head table. Camille set down her pen. Wells, she said, looking right at me, do not call me your future wife in front of these people. Not yet. Not until after the primary. I nodded. I didn't argue. I just nodded. And something in me, the part that had spent 8 months shrinking, finally went quiet. That night while she slept, I opened my laptop and looked at every list she had made. Every donor sheet. Every contract. Every line of infrastructure with my money behind it, and my name buried underneath. And I began, very quietly, to take my name off all of it. The party was held at the Watergate Hotel. Camille's choice. Iconic. Historic. Perfect for photos. The bill was $23,000. I paid it through a shell company. Camille thought a donor had covered it. The night of the party, I arrived early, wore my best suit navy, well-fitted, nothing flashy. Camille was already there, holding court with reporters. She looked stunning. Red dress, perfect makeup, the kind of woman who photographed like a magazine cover. When she saw me, she smiled, but her eyes flicked to someone behind me. A photographer, and her smile shifted, became performative. Well, suz, she chirped, kissing my cheek. You made it, of course. Go mingle. I need to finish these interviews. I mingled, talked to donors. I had helped recruit, staff I had helped hire, consultants I had helped hire, consultants I had connected her with. None of them knew who I was. A donor I had personally recruited shook my hand and asked, So, how do you know Camille? Policy work, I said. He nodded, already looking past me for someone more important, and I let him go. There was a moment, standing there with a drink, I wasn't drinking, when I almost said it, almost told a stranger my own name just to hear someone in that room understand it. I didn't. Old habit. Operational security. Keep your private life private. But I was starting to see that the rule my grandfather gave me to protect myself had become the exact thing she used to disappear me. At 7 p.m., Camille took the stage. Thank you all for being here tonight. This campaign has been incredible, and it's because of people like you. People who believe in a better DC. Applause. I also want to acknowledge someone special, my good friend Wells, who has been such a wonderful supporter. She pointed at me. Good friend, not fiancé, not partner, friend. The room clapped politely. I stood there feeling something crack in my chest. She continued. Wells has helped with policy research, volunteer coordination, all the unglamorous work that makes campaigns run. He's been a great asset to the team. Asset to the team. Asset to the team. I looked in my hand. The engagement ring I had bought her was on her finger, but she hadn't mentioned our engagement. After the speech, I found her in a back hallway. "Camille," I said, my voice low. "Great event. You called me your friend." "What?" "You introduced me as your good friend, not your fiancé." She blinked. "Oh, right. I thought about saying fiancé, but it felt too personal for a campaign event. This is our engagement party. It's a donor appreciation event that doubles as our engagement party. You invited 300 people to celebrate our engagement and didn't mention we're engaged." Her expression hardened. "Wells, don't do this. Not tonight." "Do what?" "Make everything about you. This is my night, my campaign, my moment." "I thought it was our moment. It would be if you had done anything worth acknowledging." The words hit like a physical blow. "Excuse me? Look, Wells, I appreciate what you do. I really do. But let's be honest. You're a volunteer, a policy researcher. You're not a major donor. You're not a political operative. You're not someone these people need to know. Camille, I need to be smart about optics. If I introduce you as my fiancé, people will ask questions. What does he do? How much does he make? Is he using her for political access? I cannot afford those questions right now. So, you're hiding me. I am protecting both of us by pretending I don't exist? By keeping our personal relationships separate from my professional life?" She touched my arm. "Wells, please try to understand. This campaign is everything to me. I need people to see me as strong, independent, someone who earned this, not someone who got help from a partner. I am not your accessory. I am your fiancé, and that is beautiful. But tonight, can you please just let me have this moment?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I didn't recognize. "Sure," I said quietly. "Have your moment." I walked back into the ballroom. That's when I saw it. The envelope on my chair. The black leather envelope with the thank you note about my generous donation. And I knew she had put it there. A private joke, a reminder that my role was to write checks, not stand beside her. I opened it in front of everyone, read the note, felt 300 pairs of eyes on me, and I left. Dominic called me at midnight. "It's done. Super PAC funding terminated, building lease voided, staff contracts canceled, campaign account frozen. She'll wake up to a very different financial reality tomorrow." "What about the media consultants?" "They're pulling their teams. Breach of contract. They'll announce it publicly. Makes them look principled." "Good. Wells, you should know this is going to destroy her campaign. She has nothing without your infrastructure." "I know. Are you sure you want to do this?" I thought about the envelope on my chair, the way she had called me her good friend in front of 300 people, the 8 months of pretending I was small so she could feel big, the way she had said, "Don't call me your future wife," and watched me nod, "Yes." "Okay, one more thing. Your grandfather asked me to prepare a press statement in case this becomes news." "What kind of statement?" "The kind that clarifies the Aldrich Foundation's reasons for withdrawing support, moral character concerns, misrepresentation of endorsements, that sort of thing." "Hold it. Don't release it unless she makes this public first." "Understood." I hung up and sat in the dark, watching the Washington Monument blink red in the distance. I didn't sleep. I kept the press statement open on my laptop, the one Dominic had drafted, and read it twice, then closed it. Not yet. If she stayed quiet, this could be clean. A foundation reallocating funds. Nothing personal in the public record. But I knew her. I knew she wouldn't stay quiet. People who treat others as invisible never believe the invisible can speak. The next morning, my phone exploded. Texts from Camille. Calls. Voicemails. "Wells, what happened?" "The campaign account is frozen. The headquarters is being evicted. The consultants are backing out." "Wells, call me." I didn't answer. Instead, I met with Margot at Georgetown University Hospital. She was waiting in her office, corner suite, 15th floor, view of the Potomac. "Wells," she said, standing, smiling. "I'm thrilled you're joining the board, though I suspect this is going to make waves." "Why?" "Because you're an Aldridge, and you've been invisible for years. People are going to ask questions. Let them. She studied me. What happened? Someone needed to learn what I'm worth." "The fiancé. Ex-fiancé. Ex-fiancé." Mardo's smile went sharp. "Good. She never deserved you." And the board announcement went out that afternoon. Georgetown University Hospital is pleased to welcome Wells Aldridge to its board of directors. Mr. 10, Aldridge serves as managing director of the Aldridge Foundation and brings extensive experience in urban development policy and philanthropic strategy. It was a small announcement buried in the hospital's press releases, but in DCC, small announcements reach the right people quickly. By 5 p.m., 3 journalists had called me. By 6 p.m., someone had connected the dots between Wells Aldridge and Aldridge Holdings. By 7 p.m., someone had connected Aldrich Holdings to Camille's campaign headquarters. By 8 p.m., the story broke. DC mayoral candidate loses major financial backing after personal dispute. Sources confirm that the Aldridge Foundation, primary funder of Camille Royce's mayoral campaign, has withdrawn all support following an undisclosed incident. The foundation, controlled by the prominent Aldridge family, had contributed nearly $850,000 to Royce's campaign through a super PAC. Wells Aldridge, grandson of former Commerce Secretary Sterling Aldridge, was recently engaged to Royce. The engagement has reportedly been terminated. Camille called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. Day 2 brought the collapse. Camille's campaign released a statement. I am deeply disappointed by the Aldridge Foundation's decision to withdraw support. Their funding was never conditional on my personal relationship with Mr. Aldridge, and I question the ethics of using donor money as leverage in a private dispute. It was the wrong move. Dominic released our counterstatement immediately. The Aldridge Foundation withdrew support due to concerns about Ms. Royce's character and integrity. Our funding decisions are based on alignment with our values. Recent events revealed a pattern of behavior inconsistent with those values. We wish Ms. Royce well in her future endeavors. Pattern of behavior, character concerns, the kind of language that makes donors nervous. By afternoon, 3 more major donors had pulled out. By evening, her campaign manager, Renata Vidal, had resigned. Her statement was damning. I joined the Royce campaign, believing in her vision for DC. However, I cannot in good conscience continue working for a candidate who misrepresents her relationships and funding sources to voters. The public deserves honesty from its leaders. By the next news cycle, a rival campaign had seized the opening. Her primary opponent released a single-line statement praising transparency in public life, which every outlet correctly read as a knife. A digital ad appeared within hours. Grainy footage of Camille at a podium saying, "I built this myself," cut against a Quran listing the Aldridge Foundation's contributions. It ran for free, shared by strangers, because nothing travels faster than a self-made story coming apart in public. Camille's campaign was hemorrhaging. Staff quit. Volunteers disappeared. Polling dropped 12 points in 3 days, and she still didn't understand why. The lunch. That was her campaign's attempt at damage control. A grassroots supporter appreciation event at the Hamilton, 50 donors, small dollar contributors, the kind of people who gave $25 or $50 because they believed in her message. She had advertised it as intimate and authentic. I wasn't invited, but Dominic called me that morning. "Wells, something you should know. Camille is planning to make a speech at her lunch event today, about you." "What kind of speech?" "The kind where she paints herself as the victim, you as the vindictive ex who sabotaged her campaign. She's going to position this as a power issue. Wealthy man trying to destroy a self-made woman." My jaw tightened. "She's going to lie publicly. Then I need to be there." "I was hoping you'd say that." "I'll meet you there. Bring Spencer from our litigation team. And Wells, wear the Navy suit. The one you wore to your grandfather's state dinner." "Why?" "Because you need to look like who you actually are." I arrived at the Hamilton at noon. The event was in a private room, glass walls. I could see Camille inside, smiling, shaking hands with supporters. She looked confident, energized, like she thought this would be her comeback moment. Dominic and Spencer were waiting outside. Spencer Royce, no relation to Camille, had been with Crane and Holloway for 8 years. Former DOJ prosecutor, the kind of attorney who made judges nervous. "Everything is ready," he said, handing me a black leather folder. "Documentation is thorough. We have receipts, wire transfers, lease agreements, communication logs, everything time-stamped and notarized. And the other thing? It's handled." I walked into the room. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Camille was mid-sentence with a donor. She froze when she saw me. I found a seat in the back. Dominic and Spencer flanked me. Camille recovered quickly. Her public smile clicked into place. "Wells, what a surprise! I didn't know you were coming." "I wasn't invited, but I thought I should hear what you have to say." Her smile flickered. "Of course, you're always welcome." She turned back to her supporters, but her movements were less confident. She kept glancing at me. Twice she lost her place mid-sentence and had to laugh it off. The supporters didn't notice, but I did. She was performing confidence for a room while watching the one person who could end the performance sit quietly and wait. I was in no hurry. I had waited 8 months. I could wait through a salad course. Lunch was served. Salad, salmon, wine. I didn't touch mine. At 12:30, Camille stood to speak. Thank you all for being here. These past few days have been difficult. As many of you know, my campaign faced unexpected financial challenges when a major donor withdrew support. Sympathetic murmurs from the crowd. What you might not know is that this donor was my former fiancée, Wells Aldrich. She gestured toward me. Wells and I had a relationship. I cared about him deeply. But when I chose to keep our personal lives separate from my campaign, when I chose to maintain my independence and my integrity, he used his family's wealth to punish me. The room gasped. He withdrew nearly $1 million in funding. He evicted my campaign from our headquarters. He used his connections to destroy relationships with consultants and media partners, all because I wouldn't let him control me. She was crying now, actual tears. This is what self-made candidates face. When we refuse to be bought, when we insist on our own power, the people with money try to destroy us. Applause erupted. Some people were standing. Camille looked at me, her eyes red, but defiant. Wells, if you are here to intimidate me, it will not work. I am not afraid of you or your family's money. I am going to rebuild this campaign, and I am going to win. Because DC deserves a leader who cannot be bought or controlled. The room erupted. I waited for the noise to settle. Then I stood. May I respond? Camille blinked. This is not really a debate format. It's not a debate, it's a clarification. I walked to the front of the room. Dominic handed me the black folder. My name is Wells Aldrich. Many of you might not know me. That was intentional. I prefer to work behind the scenes. Support candidates quietly. Let the work speak for itself. I opened the folder. For 8 months, I supported Camille's campaign. Not just financially, but structurally. I leased her the campaign headquarters through my family's trust. I pulled out the first document. Here's the wire transfer showing the initial super PAC funding, $200,000. February 14th, I held it up so the room could see. Here's the lease agreement for the campaign headquarters. Aldrich Holdings to Royce for mayor. Below market rate, $14,000 a month for a space worth $40,000. Another document. Here are the consultant contracts, media strategy, digital advertising, opposition research, all paid through the Aldrich Foundation. All at my direction. The room was silent now. I laid down another page. This is the donor ledger. 47 contributors at this campaign's 3 largest fundraisers. I introduced 31 of them to Camille personally. Most of you in this room were invited to events I paid for, in a building I own, to support a candidate my family funded. That is not an accusation. It is just the paperwork. I looked at Camille. Her face had gone white. Camille told you I withdrew funding to punish her for maintaining her independence. That is not accurate. I pulled out my phone, called up a photo. This is the envelope I found on my chair at our engagement party. An engagement party she invited 300 people to, but never mentioned we were engaged. I showed them the thank you note, the one mocking me for being a generous donor. She put this there as a joke, a reminder that my role was to fund her campaign, not stand beside her as her partner. I continued, my voice steady, but the emotion simmering beneath the surface. She called me her good friend in her speech that night, not her fiancé, because acknowledging our relationship would make her look weak, dependent, less impressive to donors. A week before the party, she told me in private, "Don't call me your future wife." My gaze locked with hers. You told me I wasn't interesting enough to help your campaign, that my story wasn't worth telling, that I should stay in the background where I belonged. Wells, I didn't mean. You meant exactly that, and that is fine. You are entitled to your opinion about me, but you are not entitled to my money, my family's connections, or my continued support while you humiliate me publicly. I turned back to the crowd. I did not withdraw funding to punish Camille for being independent. I withdrew funding because she treated me like an ATM while presenting herself as self-made. She built her campaign on my family's infrastructure while telling voters she had done it all herself. I wanted to be absolutely clear, because she used the word power 3 times, and I think she meant it. I never asked her for a vote, a policy, a contract, or a seat at any table. I asked to be called her fiancée at a party I'd paid for. That is the entire crime she is describing. I pulled out one final document. This is a statement from Renata Vidal, Camille's former campaign manager. She resigned because, and I am quoting here, candidate Royce systematically misrepresented the sources and extent of her campaign funding, creating ethical concerns about transparency and honesty with voters. I set it on the table. So yes, I withdrew my family's support. Not because Camille refused to be controlled, but because she was dishonest. With voters, with donors, with me. Silence. Then someone in the back started clapping. Slowly at first. Then others joined. Not everyone, but enough. I closed the folder and handed it to the nearest reporter. It's all in there, I said. Every number, every signature, every date. You don't have to take my word for anything. I walked toward the door. Dominic and Spencer followed. Camille called after me, her voice desperate now. Wells, wait. Please let me explain. I stopped, turned. You had 8 months to explain. To see me, to introduce me as your fiancé instead of your intern. You made your choice the night you told me not to call you my future wife. I just listened. I made a mistake. I paused, letting the full weight of my words hang in the air. You made a lot of mistakes, Camille, but the biggest one was thinking I would stay invisible forever. I walked out of the Hamilton into the bright October sunlight. Behind me, the room was already turning, chairs scraping, voices rising. A candidate standing alone at a podium with no one left to applaud. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to choose between being loved and being seen? Tell me what you think I really want to know.